We have a problem, Batman. Gotham needs you again.
The Dominion is order wearing the mask of peace, a galactic empire that has convinced itself that slavery is protection and that freedom is the disease that causes all suffering. They operate through three primary species: the Founders, who rule through shape-shifting and paranoia, the Vorta, who manage through cloning and fanatical loyalty, and the jem'hadar, who enforce through addiction and programmed obedience. The contingency protocol must account for enemies who genuinely believe they're bringing stability to a chaotic universe, who see resistance as a mental illness that needs curing rather than a legitimate response to oppression. Their greatest weapon isn't their military might, but their absolute certainty that they know what's best for everyone. That order justifies any means. That peace through domination is superior to freedom through struggle. The plan must deal with adversaries who have spent millennia perfecting systems of control that make their subjects grateful for their chains. The Founders serve as the Dominion's ruling class. Shapeshifters who can take any form and have developed paranoia into a governing philosophy after centuries of persecution by solid races. Their ability to mimic anyone makes infiltration and edge their primary strengths, while their collective consciousness through the Great Link allows for perfect coordination between individual Founders. They view solids as inherently inferior and chaotic, requiring guidance and control to prevent them from destroying themselves and others. The Founders' weakness lies in their dependency on the Great Link for identity validation, and their vulnerability to specific diseases that can affect their shape-shifting abilities. The strategy involves exploiting their isolation from solid emotions and experiences, creating situations where their lack of understanding of individual motivation leads to strategic errors. Disease warfare becomes a viable option, not to commit genocide but to force negotiation by threatening their existence. When gods discover they can die, their certainty of their right to rule begins to crack. Vorta administrators represent the Dominion's middle management, genetically engineered clones programmed with absolute loyalty to the Founders and enhanced abilities in diplomacy, logistics, and tactical planning. Each Vorta is designed for specific roles within the Dominion hierarchy, with genetic modifications that enhance their usefulness while ensuring their dependency on their creators. Their cloning process means that killing individual Vorta is tactically useless, since they can be immediately replaced with identical copies possessing the same memories and skills. The Vorta's weakness lies in their programmed inability to question Founder authority, making them vulnerable to psychological manipulation that exploits contradictions in their orders or situations where serving the Founders conflicts with their programmed goals. The strategy involves creating scenarios where their loyalty programming conflicts with tactical reality, forcing them to choose between immediate mission success and long-term Founder objectives. When perfect servants encounter imperfect orders, their programming becomes a liability rather than an asset. Jem'hadar soldiers from the Dominion's military backbone, a genetically engineered warriors programmed with absolute obedience and addiction to ketracel white, a drug that controls their behavior while enhancing their combat abilities. They mature rapidly. Live short-lives dedicated entirely to warfare and view death in service to the Founders as the highest honor achievable. Their genetic programming includes enhanced strength, endurance, and combat instincts while removing capacity for independent thought or self-preservation beyond mission completion. The Jem'hadar's weakness lies in their dependency on ketracel white, which can be disrupted, contaminated, or withheld to render entire armies helpless. The strategy involves targeting their supply lines and production facilities, by creating situations where their addiction becomes a tactical vulnerability rather than a control mechanism. When perfect soldiers discover their gods can cut off their supply, loyalty becomes desperation and desperation becomes weakness. Ketracel white distribution represents the Dominion's most critical vulnerability, as the entire jem'hadar military depends on regular doses of this synthetic drug to maintain function and loyalty. The production, storage, and distribution of ketracel white requires specific facilities and supply chains that can be identified and targeted. Disrupting these systems doesn't just weaken individual jem'hadar units, but threatens the entire military structure of the Dominion. The strategy involves identifying production facilities, mapping distribution networks, and developing methods to contaminate or destroy ketracel white supplies without triggering immediate military retaliation. This includes developing chemical agents that can render ketracel white ineffective, sabotaging production equipment, and creating false supply lines that deliver contaminated or ineffective substitutes. When an army depends on regular drug doses to function, the supplier becomes more important than the general. Wormhole control gives the Dominion their primary strategic advantage, allowing rapid deployment of forces across distances while controlling access to and from their home territories in the Gamma Quadrant. The Bodran wormhole serves as both invasion route and supply line, making its troll critical to any Dominion expansion into the Alpha Quadrant. The wormhole aliens' influence over this passage creates opportunities for negotiation or manipulation that could close off Dominion access entirely. The strategy involves developing relationships with the Prophets, understanding their motivations and capabilities, and creating situations where their interests align with preventing Dominion expansion. This includes supporting Badgeron religious and political independence, providing evidence of Dominion intentions toward the Prophets themselves, and demonstrating that Dominion control would threaten the wormhole's stability. When gods meet other gods, the mortals caught between them might find opportunities for survival. What do you think, Alfred?
Master Bruce, the Dominion represents the seductive appeal of absolute security purchased through the surrender of individual freedom. They offer genuine benefits: peace, prosperity, protection, in exchange for political autonomy and cultural identity. Many species genuinely improve their quality of life under Dominion rule, at least initially. The moral complexity lies in determining whether the benefits justify the costs, whether security without freedom is truly security at all. Perhaps the most important consideration isn't how to defeat the Dominion, but how to prove that free societies can provide the same benefits without requiring the same sacrifices. Sometimes the most effective resistance to tyranny is demonstrating that democracy can work better than dictatorship.
Alfred's point about proving democratic alternatives highlights the fundamental challenge of opposing the Dominion. They're not obviously evil, but represent a different philosophy about governance and individual rights. The strategy must focus on demonstrating that free societies can provide security, prosperity, and peace without requiring political submission or cultural assimilation. This involves building strong democratic alliances that can match Dominion military capabilities, creating economic systems that can compete with Dominion trade benefits, and developing diplomatic alternatives that respect individual species' autonomy while providing collective security. The approach requires proving that cooperation works better than domination, that diversity strengthens rather than weakens civilizations, that freedom and security can coexist when free peoples work together rather than submit to authoritarian control.
What do you think, Robin?
Bruce, the Dominion sounds like a really advanced version of every bully who ever said they were just trying to help by making everyone do what they want. Yeah, they might actually make some things better for their subjects, but they're also taking away everyone's right to make their own choices about their own lives. The solution isn't just fighting them. It's showing people that they can solve their own problems without giving up their freedom. Sometimes, the best way to beat someone who offers easy answers is proving that hard-won solutions are worth more than handed-down benefits. People deserve the right to make their own mistakes and learn from them.
Robin's assessment emphasizes the core democratic principle that people have the right to self-determination, even when that leads to less optimal outcomes than authoritarian efficiency. The strategy must support species and civilizations that choose independence over Dominion membership, even when that choice involves greater risk and uncertainty. This involves providing practical assistance to independent governments, sharing technology and knowledge that can help them solve their own problems, and creating mutual defense agreements that protect free societies without requiring political submission. The approach acknowledges that freedom includes the right to fail, that people learn and grow through struggle in ways that protection and control cannot provide. Success means proving that the messy process of democratic self-governance ultimately produces better results than the efficient dictates of benevolent tyrants. Psychological warfare targets the Dominion's foundational beliefs about order, control, and their own moral superiority by demonstrating the contradictions and failures inherent in their system. Their certainty about their methods can be undermined by showing them successful examples of chaotic but functional democratic societies, by highlighting the costs of their control methods, and by exploiting the internal contradictions within their own philosophy. This includes supporting resistance movements within Dominion territory, documenting the costs of their control systems, and creating situations where their methods obviously fail to achieve their stated goals. The strategy involves making them question their own assumptions about the necessity of control, the benefits of order, and the costs of freedom. When gods begin to doubt their own divinity, their subjects begin to question their authority. Information warfare focuses on countering Dominion propaganda, while spreading accurate information about their methods and intentions to species considering joining their alliance. When the final vorta discovers that loyalty can be earned rather than programmed. When even the jem'hadar understand that strength comes from choice rather than addiction, only then will the galaxy be safe from the seductive promise that freedom is too dangerous to be trusted to the free.